Welcome to the Patrick Real Estate Show, where we explore the fascinating world of real estate investing with your host, Patrick Switek. Patrick is a dynamic young entrepreneur and an accomplished real estate investor who's passionate about helping others achieve financial freedom. Each week, we sit down with some of the most inspiring individuals in the real estate industry and delve into their personal journeys, lessons learned, and secrets to their success. Let's dive into this week's episode.
Dave, welcome to the Patrick Real Estate Show, man. I'm excited to have you on, and you've been, in my eyes, a good friend in the industry. I've seen you've been killing it, always involved in teaching tons and tons of students on how to get into co-hosting, how to do a lot of things within the space, whether it be pricing or mindset. I feel like has been a very popular thing that people have gotten a lot of value from you. You've got your head on straight, or at least it seems like it. And I think just the way that you empower and motivate and inspire so many people of the game in the short-term rental world, we're going to bring that here. I can't wait to just talk about the roadmap to success, the roadmap to 30 co-host units under management. So without further ado, Dave, welcome to the show, man.
Dude, thank you. Thank you. It's always fun getting a chat with you. I love when we run into each other at different conferences and get to shoot the breeze for a while and catch up and hear what's coming on online for both of us or what we're seeing around the corner. And what's neat, what I really love about you, Patrick, is there's usually once or twice a year that we get to see each other in person. We compare notes, we chat, but then very quickly, you and I both usually move those ideas into like our realities. And it was just recently that we were talking about consulting and how that was launching for me. And it was just recently, you've gone through a few transformations yourself from burring properties to burring management companies, but like seeing that, and it's fun. It's always inspiring when you and I get to connect and let our worlds be one for a few minutes. So super appreciate you having me on board today.
Of course, man. And same goes to you. It's a lot of progress. So let's keep it up.
Totally.
Let's hear the story, Dave.
Yeah.
How did you get into all this stuff? And share it with the people.
Totally. Yeah, we'll bring it back. My story in short-term rentals started in 2019. That's when we bought our first vacation rental. We won't go too into the ins and outs of that, but my co-hosting journey started with an idea, and that idea was given to me at the first short-term rental wealth conference, and it was actually on my 34th birthday. I'm 36 now, June 8th of 2022. And it was first with Julie George, our friend Julie George, talking about how she sold her management company. I was like, wow, that is fantastic. I'd been burring houses for a little while at that point and adding value to them and finding ways to force appreciation. Had never considered that on the business side, though. And so that is what really gave me the idea. Hearing how she sold her management company, that was what gave me the idea of starting a management company and using it as a way to create cash flow. We started it then. We had pretty quickly taken on 7 or 8 co-hosting clients. Now, one thing about my journey that's going to be a recurring theme is I have multiple businesses now. They're always under constant refinement. That doesn't mean people's jobs are at risk. It just means that I'm always looking backwards and assessing, how are we doing? Are we actually tracking to our goal, or are we just creating more work for ourselves? We started the management company. We did not know what we were doing. I had zero education other than the Short-Term Rental Secrets podcast, a couple other things online that I read in some free Facebook groups. And we kicked it off, and it was terrible. It was the worst experience ever. Our contracts were crap. There was no boundaries, so I had no boundaries with owners. I didn't know how to charge, what to charge, who to charge for what it's worth. And at the end of the day, we carried on this path of almost like 5 or 6 months of making money, but not really netting anything at the end of the day, and a whole lot of blood, sweat, and tears behind it, with my phone constantly going off. And come to like Thanksgiving of 2022, Christmas of 2022, Kim and I had to take a huge step back and say, look, our goal was to create 20 to 30K of cash flow from co-hosting. We're at about a tenth of that, and it's super stressful. And I say that because I think a lot of listeners, it's really easy to, a lot of listeners might relate to that, or they might see that in themselves. This is not an industry, like I'll say, you can usually invest in real estate, and as long as you're in a community of other people in that area doing the same thing, you can usually have enough structure to make it so you're not losing money, or at least you reduce your chances of losing money on that deal. Starting a business, I realized, was totally different, and just because I crushed it with the 2 properties that I owned, it really was no reflection of indication of success on the co-hosting side. So for the first time ever outside of college, Kim and I decided to make an investment in ourselves and get educated. And this is one of the areas where your path and my path crossed. We joined STR Secrets back a few years ago. What we learned very quickly is that we were doing it all wrong. Everything was wrong. Everything was wrong. And so what we did is we just got rid of all but one of our co-hosting clients, and started over. And that was like the first big aha moment. I'll talk about how I attract clients and all that sort of stuff in a few minutes, but I had to just take a big look in the mirror and think, what kind of business do I want to run, and how sharp do I want this thing to be? How well do I want it to be run? And what was my goal of starting a business in the first place? Because hate to break it to anybody, but like starting a business is not a clear path to time freedom unless you do it right. I'll take a few steps back. It was around that time, very early 2023, that we went down to essentially 3 properties, the 2 we owned and one that we co-hosted still. And thankfully it was the off season in a beach market in that time. So that co-hosting owner didn't really quite know the difference, nor did they mind that we were going through this transition. And we meaning my wife and I, Kim and I, we had a phone call with Stacy St. John. And you start to remember these different moments in your journey that are quite pivotal. And that phone call was one of them. And Stacy was just explaining to us her journey. And she gave us a really great idea, one that she used herself. And it was that she invested heavily in a team. She didn't wait until her income was at a certain number and then start building the team. She built the team. She built the team with an expectation of clients to grow, but also an expectation of the part she wanted to run in her own company and what she didn't want to run. So what we did after that is we realized that was something we wanted to replicate. The problem was, at that point, I had been out of my W-2 for about 9 months. I think I made like 60 or 70K selling houses as a realtor, really made no money co-hosting, so that was a wash. And we realized we wanted to build a team just like Stacy had. We wanted to have 2 virtual assistants. We wanted to have a director. We wanted all the things, but we had no money. So we actually drained a good chunk of my IRA. We took, or at least about 100K of it. So we drained 100K out of my retirement. We took 40,000 of that and put it into an account where like, we're going to get penalized and taxed. Can't spend this. That goes over there. And we took 60,000 and we started investing in people, and then also using that money to help float us through the early part of last year, because 2 kids in daycare, several houses, and a bunch of other stuff going on. We needed money. And it was the best investment we ever made. We also leveraged that for STR Secrets so we could get educated on how to build this thing the right way. So I'll pause. I'm not sure if any of that resonates. And I don't know if we've ever even gotten that deep into how I actually funded the start of this whole thing.
So Dave, I think that's an interesting way to look at it. Is a lot of times people will look at starting a business and taking out from the profits, right? Bootstrapping it that way. So you went in, and people may buy assets like a real estate asset with their 401, but I've never heard of somebody investing or their 401k on a business idea. Because if it flops and there's no real asset behind it, so that was a risk on your part. But tell me why
Totally.
you made that risk, and and is that for everybody, or was that just your unique case? Should you take out credit card debt, get 0% credit card debt, and just run the business and then potentially
Right.
pay back later? Or I'm curious, like, your thoughts on that leverage.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is where it's almost impossible not to talk about mindset, right? For us, and a lot of my journey in mindset didn't start until 9 or 10 months after all of this. So I'll preface that. But there were some undertones of factors like confidence and vision and focus. But for us, at the end of the day, all successful people have at least one trait in common. They are confident. They're confident. And when you have a lot of confidence, it's like a currency, right? And the more confidence you have, the less risky things become. And the sharper your focus becomes. So for us, it didn't feel risky. For us, I knew we were going on a 2-week vacation in the summer, which was about 6 months later, 5 months later, and I didn't want to be bothered on that vacation. And so I believed in myself to grow the business. I truly did. And I knew that as long as I had a capable team to run this business, which when you join STR Secrets or you spend time with you, Patrick, or with me, you start to realize that the formula for success is really replicatable as it comes down to just a service that you're providing and fulfillment of that service at the end of the day. And we could talk SOPs and all that stuff another day, but it's just at the end of the day, what are you delivering, and can you replicate yourself to continue to deliver that? And the answer is always yes. Always yes. So with that, it didn't feel risky. We didn't discuss it with people who thought that it might be risky, like parents, like our financial advisor, who's now a client of mine in my consulting business. There were certain people, yeah, that we just had to put blinders on, stay focused, and really go for it. And so that's exactly what we did. And what was neat was when you have that confidence, people are attracted to that confidence. Who else is attracted to it? Clients. Clients are attracted to that confidence. What started to happen was we knew the exact path that we were taking this management company. We wanted it to spin off 20 to 30K a month, which it's been doing now for a while. We knew what we wanted the portfolio to look like. Also, you and I have talked about this. We didn't want a bunch of houses just giving us a few $100s a month. It had to be really select properties, but we were also okay taking properties on below our standard in order to build up a good reputation.
So what's below your standards? Yeah. Let's talk about that. Especially in the beginning, your first 5, were they always the highest tier properties, or were you taking on something that makes you $300 a month?
I guess financially it was probably between the 500 and 1,000 mark. Okay. Now we do have some properties that, especially in peak seasons, just our company and management commissions is $6-7 grand in that month, meaning they're grossing 30, 35, 40 in those peak seasons per month. But what I really focused on, it was 2 things. Can we work with this owner? Meaning, what's my gut feeling when this owner is going to call me? Because before I had a director, they were calling me, right? Am I going to be excited and enthusiastic to talk to them? Or do they drain me? I really tried to take stock in that early on. And because I knew if they didn't drain me, they probably didn't drain other people, meaning other people liked them too. And if they were good to me, they might have good referrals for me as well. So that was criteria number 1. Criteria number 2 was, is this place neat, clean, and would it be desirable for somebody? At that point, my portfolio was small. It was my 2 properties and then just one other that we were co-hosting. And it was, would my client base, the guests who go to any of these 3 properties, would they be interested in renting this property as well? Is it in alignment, which isn't like overly luxurious, but is it clean? Is it interesting? Is it consistent? I really wanted a consistency throughout the portfolio, because if I felt like I always attracted really great guests to my houses, if I could attract really great guests there, that means I'll probably be able to attract really great guests at these other homes as well. So I tried to keep things like I just tried to take a pause and be like, can I replicate that experience, whether it's in the same market or a different market? Because I knew if I could leverage guests that had already stayed in my properties, it gives me an expanded client base to market to as we're launching new properties. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what was your kind of strategy moving forward from this? What was the next step?
Yeah. I let the clients dictate, clients meaning homeowners, dictate my next steps. And I'll go into some tactics in a minute. I made some false assumptions in the beginning. I thought I would just be building a management company in Cape Cod because that was an hour and a half away from me and I had a house there and it wasn't all that far. I didn't anticipate my main stronghold being Sunday River, which is 4 hours away, where I do own a property up there. But I leaned into that. So what I started doing in Q1 and Q2 of 2023 is I got out of my comfort zone. I started doing the social media game, right? Like now it's time to build. I got all this. I got a decent amount of overhead now, at least for what we were producing financially. That's great. I need to start producing. My role is like bringing in clients. So one thing I've done a little bit, and I've inevitably gotten rid of those clients, is the cold call, cold outreaching. I know the UI method or like Vacasa, like pulling Vacasa clients is really popular. And sure, it is. I rarely got to a point where I actually enjoyed working for those same owners. Like they just were it was never as clean as somebody that was referred to me. There was never as much trust. There was always too much trauma there from their past manager.
That's like a ex, right? Like we've been dealing with some douchebag guys and you're not, yep, I don't trust you at all. I'm going to look at every message. I'm going to freaking stalk you. Yeah, all good.
Yeah, it's just too much. And on top of that, the other thing I found was that the standards they had for their own property were much lower than the standards that I had for their property. Now, that might seem really odd. People leave Vacasa and Evolve or whatever older management companies because they want better for their home. But then the second they realize they have to buy nice shit for their house, whether it's a $25 bath towel and nicer linens, they're out. Like it becomes an uphill battle. And I don't play that game. What I started doing was being hypercritical of my time. And what I really started to focus, like what is taking my time. And I realized in that beginning phase, yeah, it's easier to get these clients, but anytime I have to get on the phone and have a discussion and justify anything, that's a waste of my time. That's not a money-making activity for my business. And it's also not a crisis that I should be involved in. And if it's not one of those two things, I got to push it to the team to help protect me, right? And if you don't have a team yet, it's even more important to be really critical of these things and sniff it out early. So that was something that I paid a lot of attention to in the beginning. What I started doing is, so how did I build the portfolio? I started making key relationships in markets. Real estate agents were number one. Because of hospitable host and just making some really good friends in this community, in the short-term rental community, people from around the country started asking me about what was going on in New England. Where's a good place to invest? What's up with Cape Cod? What's up with Sunday River? What are the specific pockets or areas? It was very soon that people from around the country started wanting introductions to realtors. I started not hiring realtors, but figuring out who are the connectors in these markets. Who are the realtors who actually understand short-term rentals? Who are the ones that can bring deals to market that are not currently active listings or anything like that? And so I really built up this relationship with a guy up in Maine. His name's Will Van Wickler. I do a show with him on Thursdays. And amazing dude. Long story short, he actually messaged me because I was making social media content. And he said the most amazing line. I'll never forget it. He goes, "What do I need to do to get your referral?" So what was happening was I was referring homeowners, potential buyers, to other realtors. And it was pissing him off. I didn't know him. And he asked, what does he need to do to get my referral? So I said, hey, look, I want to see how you analyze a property. Maybe next time I'm up there, we go walk a few properties together and let's see if we have a rapport, which we did. We quickly found out this is a good fit. And he said, hey, if you send me any clients, I'll shoot you a 25% referral fee.
wow.
I was like, that's fine. Let's not do that. And he was a little confused. And I said, I want you to send me management clients that may be a good fit. And here's what I'm looking for.
Wow. I have this,
And-
before you continue, because this is spot
Yeah.
on. I have the same philosophy. The same thing that you're doing, I'm doing the exact same thing. People came, and key realtors in my market have been some of the best leads that we've gotten. And that relationship, I have one guy. He's my go-to guy. Every time anybody in our portfolio, we have a lot. So anybody in our portfolio that sells is usually pretty luxury. And I dish that all out to him. He gets everything.
Totally.
And so he gets everything from there. On top of that, I think, and my business partner and I have been toying with the idea, well, maybe we should give referral fees and then, or take referral fees. And I'm like, no, like this is relationship that works both ways, because whenever, for instance, he needs and then he sends us leads, obviously, but whenever he needs a consultant to come in and help him sell a deal, we're coming in and hopping on these hour-long calls with his clients and telling them, even 30 minutes, whatever, telling them, yeah, this property's, I would go for X, Y, and Z property. Yeah, this property is going to make about this much based on these comps that we have in our portfolio. And it's going to do whatever. And so now we get to demonstrate expertise. He gets to close the deal. And then the clients are happy because they're getting the actual data, not the AirDNA data, the actual data in a portfolio of a lot of properties. And then if they start working with us, we make them a lot of money. And the moment we start making them a lot of money, they want to buy more. And so then he gets the deal again. So he's just like, yep, make them a lot of money because they're going to come back and they're going to keep buying with me. And I love that kind of relationship because, look, he's not in it to just make money on everything, right? If somebody sells, I'm like, well, at least it'll go to our guy. If somebody ever decides to not sell and to continue managing, he will send it to us. And he knows if they make money, they'll buy down the line. Like it's, for him and us, it's just a very long-term relationship. We're very aligned.
Totally.
I trust him. And the same thing as you, like that relationship has been feeding us so much. And that relationship was inherited. A lot of the relationships were inherited when we bought the company. So we bought the company and those relationships were inherited and we just had an in already because they already knew the brand. But that's a whole nother story.
Right.
But anyways, it works.
No, but you're right. It's a healthy ecosystem, right? And it then goes beyond that. My biggest house ever, which isn't launched yet, it's an 8-bedroom with an indoor pool in Sebago, Maine. That lead came off a hot tub salesman who I've sent, like, because up in Maine, I'm not going to manage a house if it doesn't have a hot tub. So like 15 people have bought hot tubs off this guy in the last year or 2 years. So there's that. There's also, so I'm just trying to give some folks ideas of who to network with. One of my consulting clients came off of my cleaner. My cleaner's like a referral from my cleaner.
How do you all these people to send you leads? You give them a referral. Do you tell everybody that you meet, hey, I'm going to give you a referral if you ever send me somebody?
No, I figure out what their goal is and I help them achieve that goal. So a hot tub salesman gets commission off every hot tub he sells. Great. That company's also in Massachusetts. Even though he's located in Maine, they still go to him and then he gets some piece of whatever's bought in Massachusetts. With the cleaners, right? Like why would they ever give my name to somebody? Because I give them $1,000 bonus a year. We like their goal is to make money, but I don't give them money for the referral. I help them financially ahead of that with no strings attached. You know what I mean? What else? Closing attorneys, insurance brokers, lenders, all these people, their real goal is to build their business. Me paying them a few $100 or a few grand doesn't really help them. Usually it doesn't help them achieve what their real goal is. But then that means, you got to slow it down and start to understand people a little bit more. and ask questions and actually be a resource for them and give them the time and opportunity. Those are the $10,000 an hour activities that as a business owner, it's worth your time. And I think that a lot of people get so wrapped up in their charge to get X number of properties and this and that they don't slow down to actually think about who am I interacting with? Am I fundamentally improving their lives in some way, shape, or form? Like, just leave everyone with the impression of increase and it'll slingshot back to you. So carrying on. So we continued to grow that portfolio and it happened very quickly. I probably gave Will close to 10 referrals over that year, which helped him. So what does that mean financially?
Your realtor,
Yep. And he closed close to $10 million worth of real estate off of that. So do the math. 2.5 or 3% of that to him is quite a bit of money. And so he started giving us clients. And that was actually also part of how the consulting company was formed, which we can hit on a little bit later. So then in Massachusetts, what I started doing is I was having trouble there. I couldn't find another Will Van Wickler in Massachusetts. And I'm a realtor in Massachusetts. So there can be some conflict of interest, even if you try and put that to bed. So I started connecting with presidents of real estate offices in the markets that I manage. So I started to figure out, instead of one realtor, why don't I go to the guy or lady who is over 20, 30, 40, 50 realtors, and why don't I start bringing them value by educating them and teaching them and getting on calls like you described. And that is what really helped me move the needle. What happened during this entire time also is, again, it's bringing value to people. Around last summer, I started coaching for STR Secrets, coaching their co-hosting, like coaching call and bringing in some one-on-one students. So transitioning, I'm always a student, but officially transitioning from a student to a coach a few hours a week. What was really neat is once you build that lead engine, you're going to get leads every day. It just, you start to attract them. You really do. And it's just important to know that you don't have to take on everything. I started finding a lot of really fantastic opportunities to help a lot of new co-hosts in the co-hosting space by giving them leads. And in return, not that this was ever asked or ever agreed upon, if they ever got a lead in my market that they weren't established in, they were very quick to send that referral over to me. If they wanted to move into that market, I also helped them do that also as well, right? There's enough houses for everybody. So it was this mentality and mindset of just like helping out everyone along the way that ultimately, like, referrals just came in. Sure, it takes a little longer than making a phone call on a listing that's got a 4.4 rating with Vacasa, but it's been a clean and healthy relationship that has been a lot less stressful than starting a relationship from the ground up.
Absolutely. Do you do any cold calling at all? Do you recommend it? Do you see students do it?
I see students do it all the time, and I see some students get some fantastic properties. It just never, for me, the downstream work to build the trust sucked the life out of me. And I get it. There's something to starting a relationship. But for me, I've never had a salesperson. It's always been, I guess I've put myself more in front of, like behind the microphone or on stage or on podcasts or in books and other ways of attracting leads. I guess I started building my own brand. And that's what attracted the leads rather than
I do the same thing with the brand. Obviously, I post a lot on social media. I always tell my students, I'm like, hey, just go on Facebook groups and become the expert in that Facebook group for short-term rental property management. That's how I scaled so quickly.
Totally.
But curious, you're starting from scratch. Why would a realtor trust you? Who are you? I don't know you. And granted, even at 30 units, when I had my first company, or maybe I went up to 50, but it was Stage You Like. It wasn't the highest end brand in the area. And so I don't think realtors took me seriously. And the moment I bought that freaking company, the Cohost company, one of the number ones in the market, I entered that real estate office, and all of a sudden, there was like a whole different change. By the way, we just bought the Cohost company. Hi. nice to meet you. It's, oh shit, okay, and then the leads start coming in. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
got it. So the
Yeah.
portfolio that you have and the branding also matters. Now, you don't have anything. Let's go
Totally.
back. How the heck do you get your first few
Yeah.
clients? Because you might not have the luxury to wait, and an outbound sales strategy
Right.
might work. But I don't know. What's your thought? Like a brand new
Totally.
student. Let's say a brand new student comes
Yep.
up to you. How do I get my first deal?
Yeah. So let's talk, if you're going to do outbound and you're brand new, how do you have the portfolio without having
Chicken
the
and egg problem.
portfolio yet, right? It is, but I do have a solution. And what I always tell people, and I'm gonna make a statement, then I'm gonna have to explain it and give context. But what I'm gonna say is, think about what it is that you want. Manage 20 properties, make 20K a month. Your accomplishments, whether it's getting one property, 100 properties, buying a management company, buying an apartment building, whatever it is, your accomplishments, they're never going to exceed your self-image. They're not. You're never going to, your accomplishments will never, what's happening between the ears. It's just not going to happen. So what you have to do, so how do you build confidence in yourself and then make it so other people have confidence in you, right? Whether it's a cold call, fresh, hot, brand new lead, someone from Vacasa, a real estate agent, the president of a brokerage, a cleaning, like whatever, right? You have to be that person between the ears mentally and assume that you are that person already, Patrick, who has 100 units, right? The way you get to 500, you of course can work your tail off and keep buying, but until you identify as the person who has 500, those opportunities are just not going to present themselves. So in the beginning, identify yourself, walk around as if you're that person who's got 50 units and a full-blown team under you already. Be that person already. Be really super clear about what it is, like what your goal is, and start tailoring your week based on what that goal is. Live into that week already. I'm at the point where I hate working on Mondays and Fridays, or at least I like to have full control over those 2 days and who I let into those days and who I don't. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are like game on. People can book time on my calendar. They're busy. I have a bit less control over them, and that's by design. And I'm making more money now and doing more across 3 different businesses than I ever have. But it's not stressful, right? It really isn't. Things can move quickly as long as you're calm. So just have that confidence on the front end. And just know, if you're like, I need help getting confidence, know in your mind that whatever you're trying to achieve, it's not going to happen until you assume that it's happened already mentally. Your world is the last thing to realize and recognize your success. The idea has to be in there, the confidence has to be in there, and the expectation that you can achieve it has to be in there. So then you take that mindset, you get real comfortable with that new identity, and then sure, if you want to go hit the phones, go for it. If you want to take that and go start talking to realtors, go for it. You can still partner with a realtor so long as you're bringing them value. So for me, right, like when I started talking to Will, I didn't have a ton of properties. Why did he have confidence in me? I built up a friend and network base and started getting vocal about what I was doing in a given market. Now, if you're new to a market, you don't own any properties there, go hit the books and do some research, right? Go see what interesting facts you can find. Get around people like Patrick or like me or in some of these different masterminds or even free Facebook groups and do your homework. You're not going to just walk into a market day one and pull off what Patrick's pulled off. However, if you study what Patrick does and you study a market, right, what you've done, what I've done is very replicatable. But bring that value to somebody, but you got to have something worth value to share. And it doesn't always have to be your past accomplishments that equal that value. So I'll pause there. That was a lot to unpack, but I think some stuff
100%.
people can take
So
away from it.
I definitely agree with the mindset. I'll kind of double down on that. I see myself winning always before it happens. Even as a little kid growing up playing sports, I played soccer. I would just I always love the feeling of just going to my backyard net and kicking the ball into the net and just imagining a whole crowd cheering and oh yeah, that was like the vision. I was already painting the vision
Yeah.
of how I was going to be on Sunday night. I didn't know at the time, but that was just like I was always a visionary. I always thinking about the outcome after everything's been served. And even in middle school, I've always thought, oh wow, like me living the life I want to live, which was the entrepreneurial life. I was obsessed with this entrepreneurial image, and it came to fruition and continues to come to fruition. But I definitely have times where I think to myself, wow, like that's not me. I can't do it, or have limiting beliefs in my mind. So I definitely get that. Obviously, the mind has to be right first, and then what happens. And the reason I'm able to come into meetings, my close rate on meetings is very high. But also, I've built the
Same.
like I rarely do owners come back unless there's never like a I'm not confident with you. It's usually, oh my God, that price might be not even price really. It's more so like this, like I can't commit to a 2-year agreement. That's usually what it is. And even if I explain it and I put it through, some people just have things in their mind. But most times when I come in, I'm just so confident that I can crush it for them. Like I'm just so confident that I can crush it for them that the confidence just comes. But if you don't have the confidence that it can crush it for them because you don't know what you don't know, then you got to just know. And how do you know is by listening to podcasts like this, right?
Yeah, and don't be scared to get a mentor. And it doesn't mean you have to go like paying for one, but find somebody whose ideas you can steal. Like you can have a mentor who you've never talked to before too, by the way, right? What I find is that sometimes these feelings and these mindset shifts, they have to actually be fabricated. And you know, there's 2 ways that you change your mindset, which is really hard to change, by the way. It's usually through some level of mentorship or some sort of like trauma or physical like impact occurrence or your environment. And the first one is a lot easier to help you change. Otherwise, you're like something good or bad, emotional impact. It's a wild card there to change your mindset. But I always found like no big change was done alone for me 100%. Anyways.
And I think pair that with consistent action, you're good. Those
totally
things. So let's talk about consistent action.
There's on that there was this Bigger Pockets episode. They have so many episodes now, I don't remember which one, but there was a guy on it. So he probably was on like in 2020 2021. And he just said, the way I got into real estate investing is I took one action a day. Sometimes that action was small, like printing a form. And the next day my action was to sign it. And the action the third day was to mail it. But like that really stuck with me. It is what brought me through real estate investing, to becoming an agent, to leaving my W-2, to starting a co-host business, to starting a consulting business, to having a good marriage and family. There's always something every day that you can be doing. And I think the other piece of that is whenever you say yes to something, in that moment, you're saying no to everything else. So just take an inventory of the things in your life you're saying yes and no to, and just see if it's in alignment with whatever your goal is. And if it's not, just know that like the cool thing is you're the one that gets to change absolutely.
That. And let's talk about the action every day. How do you mobilize yourself to keep at it?
Yeah, for me, this is going to go a few directions, but what I always like to say, what are the activities that I like to do every single day? Money-making activities. Why do I like making money? For me, I did an inventory of what in life makes me happiest. Over the last year, what has made me the happiest? And of course, like family and kids and everything that goes. So let's put that one on the pedestal where it belongs and say after that, like what makes me the happiest? And it was giving, it was donating. The happiest I had been was when I was able to give money and do something. So that has turned into this massive motivation for Kim and I. Right now, the goal is to donate $1,000 a day. That's just like a fun goal that we work towards. But that has been the motivator. I think everyone needs like some sort of desire or some sort of like motivator to keep you like taking action every day. Because at the end of the day, like if you're not growing, then you're shrinking. And nobody benefits by you shrinking. No one benefits by Patrick making less money. They don't. A lot of people benefit by you making more money. Like I can guarantee that. And I think that goes with everybody. And usually there's a correlation. If you're making more money, it means you're making more money because the level of your service is improving. You're either helping more people, so your quantity of people you're helping is growing, and or the quality, and usually it's both at the same time. And so for me it's always just like, how much can I donate, and then how quickly can I catch my income up to that on the back end so I can still support my family and everything I want to do and continue to help more people outside of that. And that's what's sort of driven us to create a cash rich business, which would be consulting, where we help homeowners launch their property, build out all their tech and their systems, and then support them. But then there's also the engine behind that where we learn everything and get to beat up new technologies and stuff like that in the co-hosting business off on that side. I think in order to continue to take level-headed steps every single day, like really tying yourself to a motivation that like you can get emotional about. I think emotion is that like secret key behind growth of just an idea that's fun. Anybody can want something, but actually making that a real desire and going for it, it usually takes some level of emotion, like real emotion.
I love that. And so, Dave, let's get into the last 3 questions here. So first one is, what educational resource benefited you the most, whether that be a book, whether that be a YouTube video, something that changed your life or allowed you to change in a dramatic way.
I really liked the short-term rental conferences. I found that those were like, and you got one coming up. We'll share that in a sec. I'm sure people have heard of it, obviously. But I liked those because they weren't a big financial commitment. I effectively got to go on vacation. I got to be around a lot of other like-minded people, and I got to hit on a lot of different topics over a wide span of topics with a lot of really great industry thought leaders. So for me, I lean on conferences. Going to 1 or 2 of those a year alone, I think can really help move the needle and create some accountability, because you're going to see a lot of similar people at those year in, year out.
And with that being said, the second question is, is there anything in your life, let's say there's one change you could do in your life, regrets or not, you could do one change in your life, mindset wise, whatever, what would it be? Like moving back, looking in the past.
Yeah. This is something that's come up recently, and I've had to make a big shift in my life, but it's to have and find calmness of mind. As a business owner, you become like a sponge, and you can absorb the energies and attitudes of your clients, of your team, of everyone around you. And if you don't keep those energies and attitudes where they belong, they can seep into other parts of your life, like family and kids and people who have nothing to do with that business. And it's also not fair for them to have to ride the roller coaster of the highs and lows that happen to you in a day-to-day basis as a business owner. And now, like, those all keep their own proper place in my life, and I can be a better dad and husband. But for me, somebody who's pretty emotionally driven towards goals that I'm really passionate about achieving, I'm happy I finally realized, and I wish it didn't take me 2 years to realize I don't have to be the sponge for everyone else's attitude, decisions, and energies.
So, cool, man. What's in the books for you in the future? What's up for Dave? Yeah.
Yes. What's up for Dave? So the big thing is we've gotten so selective with the co-hosting business in terms of the properties that we take on. At this point, it's maybe just a few properties a year of really high caliber. A lot of focus and a lot of area where we've been able to have the biggest impact on people is in the consulting business. And before I was in real estate, I was 15 years in healthcare consulting and managed a business in the healthcare consulting space. But that has been a really fun business. It's called Launchpad Consulting. lp.consulting is the website. And what's been really cool there is structuring it like a brokerage. And we've been taking on consultants from around the country and really helping support consultants grow their business. Because what we found was that 1 out of maybe every 15 properties that come to us on the co-hosting side, whether you're cold calling or you're doing inbound like I do, a lot of them are not going to fit the mold of what you want to take on. However, you as a consultant then have a perfect layup to present self-management and consulting, and that's what we've built the framework for consultants to be able to leverage. So whether it's a side hustle or you're building a real business out of it, that's been our sweet spot, is supporting consultants. So that's just been a ton of fun, putting a ton of focus into that. The co-hosting business is nice because all the systems are just like baked. They're good. They're tried and true. So we're just taking on properties slowly there. And that's where we're sitting for
awesome,
right now.
Man. So like people that enjoy this conversation and want to get in touch with you, how can they reach you?
Yeah. So I have a website. It's just davemenapace.com. That's the easiest place to go. davemenapace.com. You can book a time on my calendar. You can find my socials. You can see our different businesses there. Tried to keep it easy for everyone because I was tired of giving 4 or 5 websites and social media pages.
Yeah, and I appreciate you hopping on and sharing. It's always nice to reconnect. Hopefully I'll see you again at another conference. But yeah, appreciate you, man, and you have a good one, all right?
You too, brother.
And that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to the Patrick Real Estate Show. If you found this episode helpful, please give us a follow and leave us a 5-star review. Your support truly means a lot. And connect with Patrick in the show notes below. Until next time.